You are the same guy that you've always been. You're a bully who likes to throw his weight around and push people.
Now, unfortunately, there are times in WWE when top stars have used their position of power to manipulate WWE booking and other superstars' careers. Instances of superstars using their power negatively have occurred a number of times throughout the years, and they're usually fascinating stories in relation to why the superstar decided to use their backstage power in this way. In theory, superstars shouldn't be impacting other talents' careers at all, never mind in an adverse way. The WWE management should be the ones who decide what happens on the show, and to give some of these superstars power was a recipe for disaster. But which times were they? Well, join us now as Wrestlelamia looks at 10 times WWE wrestlers abuse their power. Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for daily wrestling videos, and follow us on Facebook for exclusive lists.
There's awesome stuff that the writers have been working on to have this perfect ending to SummerSlam that was good. Brock comes in at 6 p.m. and changes everything. And Vince was like, okay, we're going to go with Brock's idea. And it made everybody else look stupid but Brock.
Number 10. John Cena refuses to drop the title to Jack Swagger. Back in 2010, WWE would award the Money in the Bank briefcase to Jack Swagger. They had plans for Swagger, and a world title reign was about to follow. The initial plan for Swagger's push was for Swagger to cash in on the then champion John Cena. However, Cena used his backstage power to cancel these plans immediately. Speaking on the Talk Is Jericho show, Swagger would explain that Cena simply refused to lose the WWE title to Swagger and revealed,
I had a little inclination, but I had no idea what was going to happen. The night before, I had teased it on Raw where I almost hit Cena with the briefcase. I snuck up on him, and then we had one of his brilliant promo segments. Later, come find out, he refused to do the job for me for the World Championship. But we will talk about that. The most unselfish top man in the business.
Instead, WWE decided to go down a different route. They would have Swagger cash in on Chris Jericho to win the world title over on the SmackDown brand. Swagger's world title reign would completely fall flat though anyway, as he was never taken seriously as a legitimate world champion in WWE. Number 9. Hulk Hogan suggests defeating Yokozuna in the main event of WrestleMania. WrestleMania 9 is often considered to be one of the worst WrestleMania events of all time. Now, one of the main reasons for this sentiment is that the ending featured Hulk Hogan using his backstage power to change the finish to the biggest show of the year. The initial plan was for Yoko to win the WWE title against Bret Hart in the main event, but upon hearing this, Hogan decided to go to Vince McMahon directly and inform him that not having a babyface on top to close the show will be met with a huge negative response from fans. Instead of pitching Bret to retain the title, Hogan instead suggested that he challenges Yokozuna to an impromptu match and win the title. Naturally, Vince agreed, and Hogan would close out WrestleMania 9 as WWE Champion. Hogan never believed that Bret was good enough to pass the torch on to. Number 8. Randy Orton derails Kofi Kingston's push. When WWE began to push Kofi Kingston in 2009, it was seen as a major step forward for WWE. Fans had grown tired of John Cena and Randy Orton in the main event, and Kofi was a welcome change for a lot of fans. As part of his push, Kofi would be involved in a heated feud with Orton, and Kofi was presented extremely well for the most part as he secured a number of high-profile victories, including a win over Orton at 2009 Survivor Series. However, this push was quickly derailed following a triple threat match between Kofi, Orton and Cena. Now, during this now infamous matchup, Kofi would forget the finish to the match, and as a result, this absolutely enraged Orton. Orton would lash out in the middle of the ring, and once the match was over, he would complain directly to WWE management about Kofi. Unfortunately, Kofi's push ended there, but the real-life incident would form a storyline between the two men a decade later when the two feuded over the title in the summer of 2019. Number 7. Roman Reigns cancels a table spot. One of the ongoing storylines in 2020 was the story of Nia Jax continuously putting Lana through the announce table. This was supposed to continue at the Survivor Series pay-per-view, with Nia once again putting Lana through a table. But this planned table spot was ultimately cancelled by Roman Reigns, as Reigns wanted to use a table spot in his match with Drew McIntyre. Reigns believed that having two table spots in the same show would make one of the spots mean much less. Amazingly, Reigns managed to get the table spot for the women removed completely using his backstage power. Now, according to Lana, this didn't sit well with Nia. Nia and Reigns got into a backstage confrontation over this, but it was clear that Reigns' backstage power was simply too powerful for the WWE to ignore. Number 6, John Cena stops Alex Riley's push. When Alex Riley split apart from The Miz in 2011, he managed to get really over with the fan base. Riley had a great look, and the feud with The Miz presented him as a legitimate and credible star for WWE. Riley would secure the biggest win of his career at Capital Punishment pay-per-view with a clean victory over The Miz, and there were rumors that Vince McMahon was high on him. This all came crashing down though after John Cena halted any plans for Riley to be pushed in the company. It was reported that Cena had a number of issues with him, and the two never met eye to eye. This led to Cena getting in Vince's ear, and Riley would fall dramatically down the card. Eventually, he would move to NXT and would take on a new role as a commentator. He would be released in 2016, but to this very day he blames Cena for his WWE career not turning out as planned. Number 5, Triple H's Reign of Terror. A Triple H's Reign of Terror refers to a time period between 2002 and 2005 where Triple H was the face of Raw. During this time, he defeated virtually everyone WWE paired him with, and for the most part, Triple H used his backstage power to ensure that he remained in the top position. Now, this all started with Rob Van Dam. RVD was beloved in 2002 and he should have been world champion. However, Triple H cancelled these plans after RVD refused Triple H's help with his promo work. Triple H would then face Booker T at WrestleMania 19 in a rather controversial storyline which should have seen Triple H finally be conquered by the popular babyface. But sadly this wasn't to be, and Triple H was once again victorious. Throughout feuds with Goldberg and Scott Steiner, both men came forward and said that Triple H used his power to ensure that they looked as bad as possible during the feuds. Now, although Triple H for the most part stopped using his backstage power for his own benefit as the years went on, the damage from this time period hindered the fans' perception of Triple H forever. Number 4, Hulk Hogan One and Done. A SummerSlam 2005 featured an icon versus icon match as Hogan collided with Shawn Michaels for the first time ever. The SummerSlam match was supposed to act as the first match in the feud, and the initial plan was for Hogan to win this match at SummerSlam, whilst HBK would win the second, which was rumored to take place inside a steel cage. Hogan, upon hearing these plans, decided that his injuries were too severe to do one more match, and due to him being the babyface in the feud, he would be victorious. Most fans, as well as HBK, could see straight through Hogan. Hogan had once again manipulated Vince McMahon, and the issue was that Hogan just simply didn't want to lose to HBK in any capacity. Of course, we all know what happened at SummerSlam as HBK decided to oversell everything Hogan did to mock him. Number 3, Randy Orton gets Mr. Kennedy fired. But when Mr. Kennedy returned to Raw in May of 2009, fans expected him to get a major push as a babyface. Well, that was the initial plan, but his return match would just so happen to be the last match in his WWE career. During the match, Kennedy would botch a suplex on Randy Orton and Orton would land awkwardly on his head and shoulder. Orton had a history of shoulder problems, therefore Orton complained directly to WWE management about Kennedy's so-called recklessness. Although WWE had concrete plans for Kennedy, they sided with Orton and actually fired Kennedy in one of the most shocking WWE firings of all time. Now, it was believed at the time that Orton seeked out John Cena, and Cena also backed up Orton's viewpoints of Kennedy. The firing of Kennedy is often seen as one of the most extreme cases of a superstar or superstars using their backstage power to detrimentally impact someone else's livelihood. Number 2, Shawn Michaels cancels Vader's push. Vader joining the WWE in '96 was supposed to add a lot of star power to WWE's roster. They would have Vader face WWE Champion Shawn Michaels at SummerSlam, what was supposed to be one of the biggest matches of Vader's career. Sadly for Vader, this would be his last major opportunity in WWE's main event scene, as the match didn't sit well with his opponent. HBK and Vader simply didn't mesh well, and as a result, a number of spots were botched in the title match. Fans could actually see HBK get visually frustrated with Vader during the match. Following the match, HBK would complain directly about Vader to Vince McMahon, and as a result, Vader was pulled from the high-profile feud with Michaels, and he would be moved down the card. And number 1, John Cena flexes his backstage power at SummerSlam. During the summer of 2010, the main storyline of the WWE programming was the storyline of the Nexus taking over the WWE. This takeover would culminate at SummerSlam when they booked the Nexus team to take on Team WWE in the main event. The plan of the match was for the Nexus to be victorious and solidify all members of the stable as legitimate, and thus creating 7 brand new stars in the process. Cena, who was the face of the WWE at the time, believed that the Nexus shouldn't go over in the match. He directly went to Vince McMahon to get the match finish changed. Cena would suggest that he would be the sole survivor for his team and that the show would end up with Cena on top. This change led to a lot of backlash from fans as well as a number of WWE talent including Edge and Chris Jericho, who knew that the match finish Cena came up with would kill the stable.
And John wanted to do things a certain way and we told him you're wrong. Remember that? And he did it anyways and it sucked. And then afterwards he came over to us and said, I should have listened to you, but I wasn't seeing it that way.
Now more recently, Cena has been rather public with his opinion that he made the wrong decision to use his influence to benefit himself back in 2010, which is certainly a testament to Cena's character.
I don't pick how the story is told. I get told that. But I do pick what goes on in the story.
But there you have it, folks. 10 times WWE wrestlers abuse their power. Be sure to leave your comments down below and I'll see you next time with some more wrestling content.